Hey guys, All in Crypto here, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. This is going to be a Cardano update, and we're really going to focus. Recently, Jim Cramer has essentially came out and urged investors to sell their crypto. Now, he names a number of cryptocurrencies such as Cardano, XRP, Polygon, for example, and essentially claims that they could go to zero. And he likens the dot-com crash, the sort of internet stock boom and bust, to the cryptocurrency market. Now, if you guys have been following me for a number of years, some of the first videos that I ever made were in regards to how the cryptocurrency market and or blockchain as a technology and the cryptos that are born out of it are on a similar trajectory to the stocks such as Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, so on and so forth, that were actually born into the sort of dot-com boom and bust and actually survived it. And yes, there are definitely similarities whenever you get any new technology with people coming on board and trying to profit in a sort of illicit way and capitalize off a boom. And we've seen that. And there are projects out there that will go to zero, but Cardano is not one of them. So this is a good opportunity. We'll look at what Jim Cramer said, and then we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the reasons why it's not going to zero, although they should all be very obvious. If something is a Ponzi and a scam, it typically doesn't have a use case used as an actual value there, whereas Cardano absolutely does, and we will talk about it. But let's first of all play the clip. We'll look at Cardano, and then we're going to look at the actual dot-com boom as a whole, some of the stocks that were a part of it, to show you the road that I think Cardano is on. I have never been... I was actually watching a talk basically given by the CEO of World Mobile, and it really kicked into me that actually World Mobile is probably going to be a crucial component in real-world adoption in developing nations where blockchain really can have just such a huge impact. It's my opinion that just like the stocks that came out of the dot-com boom, the ones that survived, there are blockchains out there like Cardano that are going to go on a similar trajectory in terms of adoption and potentially become some of the biggest assets in terms of, if you look at Amazon, for example, or Apple, $2 trillion company, Cardano is potentially on the same trajectory along with a number of other layer ones and layer zero blockchains out there. So let's talk about it. Let's go ahead and look at the clip. Then we're going to get into some charts looking at the dot-com boom and bust. Just something different, a little bit refreshing, guys. And I'll tell you intrinsically exactly why Cardano is not going to zero.
The cryptocurrency collapse is like a farcical reenactment of the dot-com meltdown from 22 years ago. I'd also add that the more marginal crypto coins, think XRP, Dogecoin, Cardano, Polygon, which currently represent $50 billion in assets, they might be headed to, I don't know, maybe zero. I've been telling you to avoid this crypto now for ages, too. It's never too late to sell an awful position, and that's what you have if you own these so-called digital assets, which may not be worth the paper that they will never be printed on. Gold has lost its...
So we'll leave that there. I do agree with his stance that it's never too late to sell a bad position. And we've largely been, out of the cryptocurrency markets now for the best part of this year, looking to get back in. Because for me, I've never sold my crypto because I haven't believed in it more than I understand how markets work. And for me, it's always been about accumulating the most amount of this new tech, this revolutionary tech that I possibly can, setting myself up for years to come in the future, which is the only reason we ever sold, not because we don't believe in these projects like ADA. We do take some trades where the project doesn't actually really matter that much, more what the chart says and if we can make some money off it. But in regards to Cardano, it's always been a project that I've had very high hopes for, and Jim Cramer references the dot-com boom and bust, which, of course, was one of the last, or the one prior to March 2020. Sorry, not March 2020, 2008, which we saw. I can possibly actually show this on the NASDAQ because the NASDAQ has a lot of tech in it. So this is the 2000s, and this, of course, is the dot-com boom and bust. And you'll notice with the dot-com boom and bust, basically every company out there, MicroStrategy is a perfect one, really tried to figure out how they can best capitalize on this new craze that caused these sort of boom and busts. And essentially, you had every company or people just coming up with companies and putting .com at the end of it. And they would do very well because there was a boom in this one industry. Now, crypto's gone through many booms. This is a particularly big one. We went to 3 trillion from, I think, about 300 trillion, something like that, just under, in the last bull run, obviously because of all the money they printed and a number of other things. But what he actually presents, first of all, he mentions Cardano in the same light as Dogecoin. I mean, you know, it's just, he just shows a real lack of education or even interest, I guess, in the crypto space. Anybody that's familiar with Jim Cramer will know that this guy, how he still has a job is beyond me. He has called more things wrong than probably anybody out there. He has got some things right, maybe to his credit, but this was the dot-com boom. And you can see that, you know, it looks kind of similar to what crypto did in 2017. And so on and so forth. But I want to actually look at some of the stocks that were a part of the dot-com boom, like Amazon, for example. So this is Amazon during the dot-com boom and subsequent bust. Okay, let us take a look at Microsoft. This is the dot-com boom and bust. Let us take a look at Apple, which wasn't, you know, as badly affected, but this was Apple. One of the first videos I ever made is the fact that I said Bitcoin and crypto is following the trajectory of Apple and Amazon, and potentially they still are, in my opinion. And the similarities, I think, with the dot-com boom and bust and the cryptocurrency market, the blockchain industry, is they're both technologies that, at the time when the internet came out, was really yet to change our lives. We're going through the exact same thing today, ladies and gentlemen. I've never been so bullish and sure that crypto and blockchain is the future. I think there's a lot going on. We speak about markets daily and why we've got this real sort of tombstone, this macro tombstone around our neck at the moment. But you can actually see, I had all these charts here, so I don't know why I had to type them in. The similarities here between what Cardano is essentially going through. Let's even bring it up, guys. What do we got here? Solana and Dogecoin. Not sure what I was looking at there. But you can really see, I mean, I don't want to comment on what Solana looks like. But you can see the similarities here between what essentially took place. This is all stuff that we've done for a while. It's how we essentially predicted that this bull run was going to take place. You know, we looked at Cardano well back when it was in these sort of regions, and said, look, it's following Ethereum. It's just following the same trajectory. You can see the similarities here, guys. This is Cardano on the right. This is Amazon. Let's take a little look at Microsoft. Let's find the dot-com boom and bust. You know, does it look similar to you guys? I don't know. Maybe you tell me. So maybe Jim Cramer is onto something, and that blockchains like Cardano are following some of these stocks that we saw out of the dot-com boom and bust. Take a little look at Microsoft. So maybe he is partially right. And I wanted to do this video. You know, we know that Cardano's not going to zero. It's not a scam. It's not a pump and dump. There are currently, at the time of me recording this, 3,762,000 wallets, and roughly, so many people can have multiple wallets. So that kind of doesn't really, you know, you can't exactly say that there's over 3 million people use Cardano, but right now we have 1.23 million wallets that are active in terms of delegating. And there is actual, what is going to make Cardano valuable in the future and bring value to it is the people that use it. And there is a clear roadmap for how they gain this adoption. And I think just like looking at some of these early stocks, you know, yes, they got caught up. And why did Apple, so revolutionary, you know, the largest sort of, or one of the largest companies of today, why did that sell off if it was so revolutionary? Well, it was because it was sort of swept up in a recession, a real economic downturn, you know, a liquidity crunch, if you will. And this is what Cardano and many of these other brilliant cryptocurrencies are going through today, guys. I thought that, you know, we spoke about the price action. We speak about it daily. We speak about the way that the market is going. You know, in my opinion, we are set for lower prices. I think that actually there's real risk systemically to the sort of financial system. I think the yield curve is something that I pay a lot of attention to, and I think that's predicting something pretty dangerous isn't the right word, although it will be dangerous for some. Pretty devastating coming down the road, and I think it has a lot to do with our over-indebtedness and a potential collapse of this colossal debt bubble that can never be repaid and you know has to be inflationary via its own nature. So this was just a bit of an interesting one. You know, maybe Jim Cramer's right about this being a bit like the dot-com boom and bust, and there's parallels with the dot-com sort of space. But the parallels for me are, okay, we've got similar situations to this bust, but it's caused by different things. But we also have similarity between, they were both technologies that came out, revolutions in the technology space that are going to change our lives, and we're yet to see really where this goes. And I think Cardano is going to play out something similar to Amazon moving forwards. You're in this sort of patch here, and it has many boom and bust. People will call it dead, and then, you know, if we look at the dot-com boom all the way back here, guys, you know, look at where it finished up today. Maybe there's a similar, how high exactly Cardano will go in the future. You know, do I think it's going to go back above all-time highs eventually? Yeah, absolutely. Do I think potentially, you know, it's going to do these sort of gains? Maybe it's you're really speculating on that, but it could. If it gains the adoption that I think it will, you know, could Cardano get to $1 trillion in terms of market cap? Potentially, if it achieves what it set out to do. I was reading a rather fascinating article in regards to time handling on Cardano, a little bit technical actually, but it speaks about things like Marlow and Hydra. Hydra is something I'm very excited about, and I ultimately have a very optimistic outlook for Cardano. You know, it's not going to zero. We've got an ecosystem that's yet to really even be born. It's yet to appreciate. It's yet to really see real usage and utility. You know, who's using Cardano on a daily basis? It's a very small number of people. And as that grows and grows, so will its value. You are very early in a technological revolution, in my opinion. And there's some great times ahead. And we're going through, I guess, a similar thing to what happened in the dot-com boom and bust. And I think it's going to play out for some of these companies. Obviously, just to show you micro strategy, everybody loves Michael Saylor. I'm not a big fan at all. In fact. And I think, you know, for example, his company, this was the dot-com boom and bust here. It only actually recovered when he started buying Bitcoin. You know, maybe Jim Cramer should be calling micro strategy out rather than the likes of Cardano, XRP, and certainly Polygon. You know, Polygon's a great bit of tech as well. Maybe Dogecoin, who knows? You know, is there real use there? Obviously, you've got Elon promoting it, and he now owns Twitter, so that may get, you know, gain traction there. But just an interesting video, guys. Blockchain's going to change the world. I've been as confident as that today as I ever have been. In fact, more so. And we're going to live through it, and we potentially get the opportunity to capitalize off of it. So yeah, that was our rebuttal to Jim Cramer's Cardano going to zero. It was a good video actually, because I got to show you guys what happened with the last technological revolution during, you know, a depressive state for markets with obviously the bust. But if there's real value, if there's real tech there, a real sort of valuable project that is going to be used and change people's lives, then, you know, have some sort of confidence in that. It is what I'm going to love and leave you on. So if you've enjoyed the content, guys, a like is always appreciated. So as a comment, and look forward to seeing each and every one of you in the next YouTube video. Thanks a lot for watching, ladies and gents.